in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to draw these color wheels. Now the idea is that this color wheel, this mixing wheel, is a tool for learning how your colors mix and experimenting with the different colors that can come out of those blends. It is not for the purpose of memorizing how they go, although it can also be used as a reference tool so that you can look and be like, okay, if I want like a mossy type of green, then I know I want to mix these two colors, and if I want more of a turquoisey green right here, then I want to use these two colors. So you can use it as a reference, but the idea is just to play and experiment and have fun and have the structure in order to have that flow and that play. So there's this beautiful reference I've heard recently that in order to allow flow to truly flow freely requires structure. So thinking about like a riverbank and how if you have the riverbank, then the water can just flow freely down that riverbank, and the water doesn't have to think about anything, and it doesn't have to worry about anything, it just flows. Without the riverbank, the water is just going to flatten out and spread itself too thin to go anywhere. It's just going to be like stagnant water. So we want to encourage flow, and in order to do that, we're going to make this mixing wheel that will show enough structure that we can then turn off our brains and stop thinking and just play and mix the colors and experiment and see what comes. So these are two examples from my primary mixing set. This is the cool primaries, and this is the warm primaries. So once you watch this tutorial, you'll want to go through and make at least 2 color wheels or mixing wheels, but possibly lots and lots of mixing wheels, because this process is also very valid when using any sort of medium, any sort of paint. You can use any other water paints that you have. You can use acrylic paint. You can use oil paints. The only difference between watercolors and oil paints you'll find in the mixing video, and it's just basically that instead of using water to get a lighter value, you're actually going to add white paint. But with watercolor, by just adding water, we can dilute that color and get these beautiful light values. So let's get started. So first things first, you're going to need a piece of paper. So here I have a 6 by 6 inch piece of cold pressed watercolor paper. You will want to use watercolor paper of some sort, whatever you have is wonderful. And this is 6 inches by 6 inches. You could use a larger piece and put 2 mixing wheels on the same piece of paper, whatever you prefer. The other tools we will need are a compass, a protractor, I recommend using a very light pencil. So this is a 3H. H means that the lead is very hard. So the higher the number followed by an H, the lighter the pencil mark is. So even if you press hard, so here's a little, oops, it's on a little scrap of paper, just lightly, it looks like that, but even if I press hard, it's still a very light line. Okay, so that's the 3H pencil. For this demonstration, so that you can see what I am doing, I am going to use an 8B pencil. 8B. And so B, I'm not exactly sure what the B stands for, but basically it means that this is a softer lead, so it's very dark. So here I'm barely writing, and see how that's already darker than when I pressed hard with the H pencil. And now if I draw hard, it's very dark lines. So it's a very soft lead. You will need to sharpen this more often, but it will show up as very dark lines. So for yourself, I would recommend using an H pencil if you have, or just any pencil you have, okay? I like to have the light lines and then have white spaces between my colors when I do the mixing wheel. But if you like the dark lines, you can either trace it in the marker like I have on here, or you can use a darker pencil like I will be doing for this demonstration. And of course, you'll want to keep close by an eraser, a nice white eraser so it doesn't mark your paper, and some sort of pencil sharpener. Oh, and do not forget a ruler. Very, very important to have a nice straight edge. So first thing we're going to do is place our pencil into our compass. So if you remember back to our elementary and high school years, you just stick it in there. All different there's sometimes compasses are a little different, but you want to make sure that's nice and firm. And then I'm opening this up. This particular compass, you twist it to open. And I'm looking at the distance in the points. So I'm going to use my ruler. Okay. And I want 6 centimeters between the point and the tip. And again, depending on the size of the paper you're using, you can do whatever fills and fits your space the best. Okay, so I'm a little too big. Oops. Almost. Pretty close. There we go. Perfect. 6 centimeters. And so, depending on how precise you want to be, you can measure to find the center of your paper. I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. Stick the point in the middle, and I am pressing down. And then just very lightly, again, I'm using a very dark lead so that you can see this on camera. I'm going to spin that around and make a circle. And make sure you press so you can see that tiny little point so you can line up your next circle. Okay? So the outside circle is has a 6 centimeter radius, which is from that point to the outside. Now I'm going to bring this in to 4 centimeters. Right there. Okay, and same thing, put that point in the same spot. That is the very important piece. And then again, spinning it around. Hopefully you're getting a lighter line than I have. There we go. And for the final inside circle, we're going to go from 4 down to 2 centimeters. So again, just twisting that to shrink the compass. There we go. Finding that point, sticking this in there, and again, oops. I do find these smaller circles to be the more difficult ones to hold the center. There we go. Okay. So now I'm taking my pencil out. Remember to tighten up this little screw thingy so that that doesn't get lost. And we're going to take our big straight edge and put a line across the center, making sure to go through that point where that center point was. So it's not quite the right spot. And this does not necessarily have to be at a right angle. You just want to make sure it goes through that center for your first line. Okay? And now, what we want to do is have this broken into a pie with 12 slices, okay, or 12 wedges. So if you remember your math, a circle has 360 degrees. 360 divided by 12 is 30. So each pie slice or each wedge is 30 degrees. So we're going to use our compass here, making sure that this cross is on that point from the center of the circle where the compass pressed into the paper. Using our protractor, we're going to mark all the 30 degrees. So we're going to go 30, 60, 90, 120, and 150. Making tiny little marks at the end of each. I'm going to raise this up. And now we do not have to measure on this side of the circle, because if we go from this point through the middle, it will line us up on that side as well. So now we line up our ruler or our straight edge. Lining up the little measurement dash and the center, and drawing through to either outside circle. There we go. So now you have this beautifully drawn 12 slice pie. And now what we want to do, so a mixing wheel, we want to be mixing 3 colors. Classically, or most often, these 3 colors are primary colors, but they do not have to be. So remember that. You can do any 3 colors and make a mixing wheel just like this. But because we're doing 3 colors, and because this is for structure to allow for the flow state, I want to eliminate as much thinking while I'm mixing and playing with colors as possible. So I'm going to pick a spot, and this is going to be one of my primary colors. And I like to just bring this out. And you can do anything to mark it, or you can not mark it at all. But if this is one of my primary colors, then I know there's 3 wedges in between the next one, because this is my middle color. This one's biased towards this one, and this one's biased towards this one. So this is my primary. I have 1, 2, 3. This one is my next primary. 1, 2, 3. And this one is my next primary. Okay. And then there's 1, 2, 3 between those. And then I take my eraser and get rid of this line inside here. And depending on the type of watercolor paper you have and how dark your pencil is, it may still show a little bit, or you may have little grooves in your paper that make it a little hard to get rid of some of the lines. And that's another reason why I do recommend doing this on your own using a nice light pencil. And there you go. This is our mixing wheel, and you can make multiple mixing wheels. I recommend at least 2 for the primary mixing set. And if you have other supplies you'd like to test out in your mixing wheels, please make many, many more of these. And then move on to the next video, which will show you how to fill them in to create a beautiful template to test out your colors and get a glimpse of what's possible.